Well, the problem that many countries are confronting is that researchers come to a country, they collect biodiversity, genetic resources, they document traditional knowledge, they take away samples, and then in certain cases they may commercialize those without benefits being shared with the country of origin or without the knowledge or consent of indigenous peoples in the country. Normally researchers have to obtain a permit when they go to a country for their activities and so on. So we've started to look at the permit system as a way of monitoring whether researchers are complying with the terms and conditions established by the government on prior informed consent and benefit sharing. There's another aspect to this problem, which is for researchers, it can be quite complicated to work out where you need to apply for a permit. You might have to apply in 5 or 6 different places. It can take a long time, and that can be an obstacle to research. So we've developed a model whereby you create an online research permit application system that brings together all of the different research the application form for all of the different research permits in one place. The applicant has their own kind of home page. They can submit all their information. There's an internal notification system, rather like the issues system on GitHub, for example, where a national authority, a permit authority, can communicate with the applicant and say, you need to provide more information, you need to clarify this and that. So the whole idea is to simplify the process for applying for permits, but critically, that data that is provided, such as the names of the researchers, the organisations they come from and so on, then becomes the resource that is used for actually monitoring. So using packages and APIs, using R, for example, or maybe people would use Python, you would then take this kind of administrative data and you would actually send it off to APIs to bring back scientific publications, to bring back patent documents, to start searching around for products that might involve the species that are linked to the researcher. And that would then give a country like Mexico certainty about or valuable data on whether researchers are complying with the terms and conditions of a permit under the terms of the Nagoya Protocol. So that's it. Yeah, well, a lot of this is really about using code, using APIs to really make it much easier to gather data about research that's taking place on biodiversity. So in the project that we're doing in the Bahamas, we're going to organise 2 or 3 hackathons with young coders from the local university, set them challenges to make use of biodiversity, to develop biodiversity data, to develop applications that can be used by the government authorities. So one of those might be the Coast Guard, because Bahamas has got a massive sea area, so how do we create kind of mobile apps that would allow the Coast Guard to check people's permit documentation, to log whether people are actually in the right place, those kinds of things. Or we have, for example, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility for Mexico that has 8 million geo-referenced records in it, which is a huge number of records, covering pretty much the whole country. Is what kind of creative things might young coders be able to do with this kind of data? Can they start linking this with other kinds of data? And in the Bahamas case, we're going to offer cash prizes to the teams that come up with the best apps. And we think that's will be a really good way of engaging with the coding community to try and come up with some creative applications. For the longer term work, the plan is to basically develop packages in R through GitHub and start to ask coders interested in R to come in and work on these packages to try and improve them. I may write code and packages in R, but I'm not a brilliant coder. I'm kind of more still learning. And so we're hopeful that will kind of engage people, and maybe people who, say work in Ruby. A lot of our previous work was done in Ruby. Will start to become engaged, or people working in Python, and start to just create a set of tools that developing countries around the world can start to use to really start assisting with implementing the Nagoya protocol in an effective way. So that's the idea. Well, a lot of this system depends on the use of APIs to start accessing different types of biodiversity data, such as georeference data, patent data, scientific publications, information about products. In the case of the project that we're working on at the moment in the Bahamas, we're going to organize a series of hackathons where we're going to ask people from the College of the Bahamas to start developing applications, and there will be a prize for the best applications, and those applications would be something like a mobile app for the Coast Guard to use to actually check permits when researchers are using submersibles and all of this kind of stuff. We're also going to have ideas such as the use of data from the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. So in the case of Mexico, there are something like 8 million georeference records for Mexico. So we want to try and encourage people to kind of come up with creative ways of using this data, creative ways of visualizing data that can kind of support government's efforts to implement the Nagoya protocol. And as part and parcel of that, we'd like to use GitHub as a way of kind of disseminating these kinds of tools. So I write code in R, for example, and I've been working on some packages that can be used by developing countries on patent data. We'd like to see more packages being developed or more packages being adapted so that developing countries in particular can get access to free tools that enable them to effectively implement the Nagoya protocol.